big comeback at the Coliseum. Coach, congratulations. It was a fun day. I think for all involved, an emotional day. Comebacks are always great. I'm sure you had plenty as a player and as a coach. I was sort of giving my perspective after the game. What about on the inside? What's the anatomy of a comeback in a locker room, on a team? What flips in a game where one team is dominated one way that you're able to flip the whole game around and completely dominate the other way?
Well, yeah, you have to believe it first. I mean, I think that's where it starts. If you don't have belief, the chances of it happening are very, very low. And I think you have to have I think there has to be some reality to, all right, if you didn't play good in the beginning of a game, why didn't you play good? And are you capable of turning that around? And I think that was, our message to the guys at halftime was like, here's a couple of things we're not doing well, that regardless of Iowa or whoever we're playing, like, we have to do better, period. And if we'll do that, then we feel like we can really make a run here. And I think the guys all felt that and knew that, and their response at halftime was very much of a team that absolutely knew that they were going to play better, and knew certainly that they could certainly still win the game. And so I think the belief and mentality was really good. And then we came out and got off to a good start, got points right away, and then just kind of got on a run from there. And that's, this game, there's always momentum swings in this game. And part of the key is, all right, when it's not going your way, being able to put a stop to it. And then when it is, you want to ride it as much as you can. And we were able to keep that momentum really the entire second half.
Coach, we saw after the game, you're excited. Obviously, a huge win in the Big Ten for your squad, and then I think the catchphrase in your press conference post game was, it was a culture win. What does a culture win mean to you?
Well, I mean, you have some games where things go according to plan and you separate, and we've had a handful of those games this year, and those are great. Yep. But there's ones like this where you don't play very good. You have a lot of key players out for injury purposes. You're having to play a bunch of different people. Obviously a tough opponent on top of all of that. And then, for us to just overcome all of that, that shows a lot. I don't know that in some of our past years, if I don't know if we would have done that, like, to be completely honest. Yep. I mean, there is that point of as you're climbing, believing you can win and then expecting to, and really learning how to win. And when you learn how to win is really, really what you're doing is you're learning how to win different ways. And you're learning how to win when you're not at your best or not at your healthiest or not everything goes your way. That's the teams that win a lot. That's what they do. Yep. And so, we're starting to figure that out, and it's fun to see that happening. And moments like that are big because it's big for this team this year, but it's also, I think, in a lot of ways foundational, as we look ahead to the coming years.
Building off of that, Eric Gentry made a comment about how even from starters to walk-ons, it feels like everyone's really bought into the culture and learning to win. What did you see in this team that they were on the right track in that sense?
Yeah, Eric said it well after the game. It's not just a couple of key leaders or some of the guys that play the most snaps. I mean, a lot of the leadership and I think kind of inspiration and fire from this team come from all over. It comes from old guys, young guys. It comes from guys that are playing a lot. It comes from guys that are don't play a ton of snaps on Saturday but have a huge role on this team. And that's, when these things become player driven, that's in my history, that's typically when teams start to get pretty good. And that the message and what we're trying to do as a team has really gotten to the players because it becomes so important to them, just as important to them as it is the staff. And yeah, that's typically a pretty good sign, and this team certainly has signs of that. I mean, some of our most vocal, impactful leaders are some of our best scout team players, and you've seen that some with some of the captains that we've chosen, and we just got a lot of impactful guys here that aren't always the guys that fill up the stat sheet, and that's been a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, we talked to, was it Jakeem after the game who shouted out Asante Das twice when he was asked about it? I know you've picked him for captain a couple times. I wanted to ask about the leadership of a guy who plays a ton, and that's Mekhi Lemon, because he doesn't seem like the most vocal guy out there, but his will seems to inspire his teammates. What's he like as a leader and a personality? Because we talk so much about his playmaking. I'm curious about him, in that locker room and around his teammates.
Yeah, he started to become more vocal. He's I've even seen him, bring the group up and talk to the entire group before, before a practice or a walkthrough. Which, a year ago, there's not a chance in hell that was going to happen. And so, like, he has definitely started to come out of his shell and understand the responsibility and opportunity that he has with this team. And so, he's not our most vocal guy, but anything that comes from him because of the way he plays and the way he works is very impactful. And yeah, certainly. The toughness and fearless nature that he plays and competes with, every time he touches the field is a big deal for our team, and certainly, inspiring, sets a great example.
Yeah, sticking on number 6 and what he means to the team, it really looked like this thing changed offensively when him and Jaden kind of locked in and looked like maybe it was like, all right, we're going to go to our guy, we're going to make these plays. Was that something that was pressed upon the guys, or just something in the game that kind of evolved when he got going?
Yeah, it just kind of evolved. We had a couple opportunities to him, and the guys were able to protect Jaden, and Jaden was able to get him the ball, and then I think it was key that we were able to make plays outside of just limb, to show them that you just can't sit there and, put a lot of guys on them. Jacoby was making plays. Yep. The tight ends were making plays. I mean, we had some, explosive runs. I mean, that was important that we got production from other places. That obviously helps, your matchups across the board.
I talked to Jakeem Stewart after the game, and he described the interception as a reward for a hustle play and noticing the small things. And he said Coach Henney always tells him in practice, you got to run to the ball, run to the play. What does that say about the culture on defense and just that you've mentioned it before, but the experience of guys who won that are on that coaching staff?
Yeah, it's everything. It's being in position. We were talking about the week before with Jaden when he forced the fumble. It's being in position to make those plays even though you don't know when they're going to show up. And whether it's Jakeem's play, whether it's Kennedy Urlacher knocking the receiver out and his foot's out by, a couple of inches. I mean, we showed the guys the visual of from the World Series of the play at home where it's almost out and what his foot's like that far from touching it, and then showed we've used it a couple of times, but then showed the visual of the Iowa receiver's foot. I mean, that's when you're playing these big time games against really good teams and good competition. I mean, that's what this thing comes down to, and our guys are straining, and that's why we're making our share of plays.
You're listening to head coach Lincoln Riley on Trojans Live. Well, we're giving MVPs. I thought the guys who took care of the field did a heck of a job in this game. I mean, it was really wet, and you could see, there was a play where King was stomping around, and you could see big splashes coming up, and yet I didn't see a ton of slipping. How much, in the end, did you feel like the weather affected the game, the way you called the game, the plays that were made out there?
I mean, it affected the game for both sides. It was. There were some times in the game when it didn't affect it as much. I thought, kind of early in the game wasn't too bad. Second quarter started going a little bit more. Third quarter was pretty clean. Fourth quarter started pumping again pretty good. The field held up pretty well. There were some spots that were worse, down towards the tunnel end, kind of on their side was like, when guys went down, it looked like a slip and slide, which looked fun actually. And some other parts weren't great, but it's a natural surface that had just endured whatever we call these now, atmospheric rivers or whatever the hell we call them now. But and so, there was going to be some footing issues and all that. I thought the field held up pretty well considering all of that. And, again, both sides had to deal with it, and it definitely affected the game, but I thought we were able to settle into it pretty well.
Yeah, you mentioned the run game a little bit earlier of, how it didn't really have a big stat numbers, but I thought it was useful as the game went on. I saw Jaden break out one early, and then kind of, they kept it in check, but you kept going to it, kept it mixing up. What did you see from the O-line in the run game?
Yeah, we had some like key runs in the game, some big conversions and a couple explosives I thought that were important. And when you're playing a group like that really zeroes in on it, it's important to establish that. And it wasn't our cleanest game there. It felt like we were really, really close to popping a few others that were pretty big, but we were pretty steady. It was effective. Not to our standard, but it was effective.
Ready to take it to the next level? Unleash the beast this college tailgate season with Monster Energy. Tear into a can of the meanest energy drink on the planet. Monster Energy Unleash the Beast. And Trojans Live is sponsored by Pechanga Resort Casino, proud partner of USC football. We have been blessed with another 12:30 kickoff time. Brings a tear to my eye. That's 12:30 on Saturday. USC Oregon Trojan Tailgate Show will go on at 10:30. The game broadcast is on CBS. I believe it's College Game Day as well, ESPN. This is a big one. USC Oregon. Can't wait to talk about that. Coach is going to stay with us on Trojans Live. Back on Trojans Live, Jordan Moore, Sean Cody, Keely Yorn, the head coach, Lincoln Riley, getting you set for a big one on Saturday, USC versus Oregon. Been playoff games for us for a little while now. We've sort of had that mentality. I think this is one for both teams, and that's why everyone's so captivated by it. But this is just a great game on the whole. When you look at the Ducks, seems like a pretty complete team statistically. What do you see when you look at the film?
Yeah, talented team. They've recruited well and developed over a long period of time now, and that shows up. They do a good job on all three sides of the ball. They've got talent, they've got depth. The ability to really play well on all three sides. So no, it'll be a good challenge for the whole team, and that's what games like this should be. Be two really good football teams going at it, and a lot on the line, and just like it should be here at the end of the year.
Coach, we talked a little bit about what went into the offensive second half, turnaround. What do you, in your mind, what was the biggest turnaround on defense in the second half?
I thought our two safeties with a couple of the guys down really came in and played really well. Yeah. I think that was that was just very important for the game flow. And then I just think we kind of settled into the nature of the game. I think the physicality of the game. I thought we really started to get after them up front, yep. And I thought that was really, really key. And then all of a sudden you start getting them in some third downs, and which has been a strength for us all year. And we were able to make some big competitive plays in those moments, and create turnover and really again just kind of take some of that momentum and go. And watching the first half, there was we didn't feel like we were that far off when we were, watching the tape and we were talking adjustments. We felt like we needed to play a little bit better, a little bit more sturdy up front, and we certainly did that. And then I thought the guys on the back end filled in from there.
Gentry spoke about one of your mantras, which is game day starts on Sunday, and I know that's a change that you made schedule-wise this year. How have you seen that impact the team?
I think for all of us, it's just been great to mentally, get past the game, like no matter what happens, and kind of set the stage for the upcoming week, like right away. And it was a schedule we had hoped to get to right when I got here, but the class schedules here were a little tough to work around, and so it's taken a little bit of time for us to get it to that point. But now I think it's been great for a whole program. I think just mentally we've been able to get on to the next thing. The guys have responded well to it. I think it's been good for their recovery. It's been great for the coaches because now we get a full day on Monday to really just kind of dive in. I think the schedule's really, really benefited us so far, and that that comment is certainly one example of it.
When we look at this game, it feels like you guys are so battle tested by this point of the year. Like whatever themes may come up, I don't know if it's going to rain on Saturday, but if it does, we've done it. If it's a tough road atmosphere, I'm sure it will be. We've done it. If it's an elite team, seen them, played them. So, do you feel like your team is peaking at the right time? This obviously is, such an important game, but do you feel like you're ready to play your best in it?
Yeah, I think that's the benefit of playing a schedule like we do. Yeah. We've played. This is a very good football team. We've played other very good football teams. We've been in a lot of different moments. We've played with a lot of different people. So, I don't know that anything's gonna surprise you at this point on either side, right? You just go tee it up and you go let it rip. And that's what makes these fun right here at the end. So, both teams know who they are, and it should be a hell of a matchup.
Yeah, a lot of hype around this one. Going to be a fun one. Game day has been announced. Will be there. Is there any extra special emphasis with the players? I'm sure you try to go about it as a regular game week, but it seems like this one's going to be a national game and it's going to be pretty big.
Yeah, I think for us, these are all the same people that thought we were going to suck. Yeah. like seriously. This is all the same people of, what we were going to do this, and USC was this and that. So for us to pay attention to them now, would be a little bit counterproductive. So, we hadn't forgotten that.
There you go.
I believe USC leads the nation in contested catches. What does that say not only about the skill players, but Jaden Maiava to just thread the needle like that?
Yeah, no, I think a compliment to both. An expectation created here with our guys, and then Jaden trusts his guys to make those plays, and is a very accurate passer, and certainly when he gets the one-on-ones he likes, he's going to go. We saw that even last year when he first got started for us. So I think it's also a result of going, our guys competing against our defense, all throughout the year, and the tough competitive nature of those periods, and so it makes the games feel kind of like it is in practice.
The last guy I wanted to talk about was Ryan Sairi, because it just continues to have a phenomenal season, and you start to take people like that for granted when they do. And you had that double possession, the end of the first half, beginning of the second half, and in both cases you quote unquote settled for field goals, and that can feel at times like a bummer, but a real bummer is a missed field goal in that situation. And I felt like, you talk about momentum, I felt like he kept it going by making sure those threes counted, and then ultimately the offense sparked into touchdowns.
Yeah, no, he definitely hasn't been under the radar for us. He's been one of the most valuable players on the team.
No doubt.
I mean, just plain and simple. How good he's been on field goals, how clutch he's been, and then not to mention, how good he's been on kickoffs. We're playing the other day one of the best kickoff returners in the country, and his ability to kick the ball all over the field and to be able to kick a lot of different touchbacks, has been huge as well. So, his emergence is one of the stories of the year for us, without question.
Coach, I'm fired up and ready to go already. What's the key to me staying calm and peaking at the right time on Saturday?
Sean, you've been in a lot of battles. I'm going to trust your experience.
Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
I think Coach has enough on his plate. He doesn't need to handle whatever's going on with you Saturday, Sean. I'll be there with you, buddy. We'll make sure we'll get through it. USC Oregon doesn't get any better or bigger than this. Can't wait for it. 12:30 kick in Eugene on Saturday. We will go on with the Trojan Tailgate Show at 10:30. Desmond Stevens has been a huge key to this USC defense in the middle of it. He's coming up next on Trojans Live.